Bien. Nous allons commencer à passer en revue les différentes résolutions. Je vous propose
I propose that we go resolution by resolution. And if there are any observations that need to be made, then the delegates should raise their hand. Ministers should raise their hand, or those representing their countries, and they will be able to take the floor to comment. As I say, we will move resolution at a time. So, we will start with the first two resolutions. JL1, mainstreaming the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Agenda 2063 into national strategic frameworks, action plans, and programs. That is on the screen, and I think you can see it in front of you. If there are any comments to be made on this resolution, we are ready to listen to them. I can see South Africa have already raised their hand. You have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, vous avez la parole.
Thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The resolution, the only addition that I propose we make, and I need to just motivate by saying that I would propose that we just add, mindful of the challenges, that sentence there, and say specifically challenges relating to technology, financing, and statistics. I'll provide the right wording, but under the mindful, I would add specifically global challenges relating to technology, financing, and statistics. And then add a resolution that is equal to that, be mindful, that we request the AU Commission and the ECA to ask the Secretary General of the United Nations to establish a global partnership for data under intergovernmental processes as provided for by the Secretary General in his synthesis report, The Road to Dignity. I'll give the necessary wording.
le Sénégal.
Senegal has the floor. We would like to suggest two additions. The resolution hasn't stressed the role of member states enough. We speak about the role of the African Union Commission, the African Union, and the ECA. I think we need to add point 4 after 3, requests member states to take the necessary provisions to integrate in national plans and programs the objectives, targets, and indicators for the 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda. We will submit the precise wording to the Secretariat for that. Secondly, requests the ECA, the African Union Commission, and the ADB to work for the implementation of a tool to facilitate the strategic implementation of the 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much. Very well, Mali has the floor now. Thank you very much, Chairman. In the preambular part for GL1, we would say, when it says welcoming with appreciation the adoption in January 2015 by the Conference of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, we would add that. And we would also suggest saying asks the Commission to in the English version. Thank you. Very well.
Est-ce qu'il y a encore une autre
Would any other delegations like to make comments on this?
Bien. S'il n'y en a pas,
I see none. Would you therefore agree that this draft resolution can be approved and adopted? Very well. Given that I can see no delegation wishing to take the floor, we can consider that with the necessary amendments, this resolution has been adopted. We now move to the next resolution, number 2, integrated reporting and follow-up on sustainable development. Would any delegations like to take the floor to make comments on this resolution?
c'est très bien. Comme il y a
Very good. There are no comments, so we can consider this adopted. Do you agree with that?
Nous passons
We move to the resolution ECAL2, Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. Would any delegations like to make a comment on this? No observations? The resolution is adopted. Next, the resolution on international migration in Africa. Are there any comments? Libya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you please allow me? I took just the floor to be satisfied and get sure that paragraph 6 that was requested to be added by the Libyan delegation, and you have requested from us in order to give it to the Secretariat in writing. I just want to be satisfied that it's going to be included within this resolution and to become paragraph number 6, as our colleagues have approved and no one opposed this, because this is of great interest for my country and for the whole continent at the regional and continental level. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Est-ce qu'on est d'accord avec ce...
Do we agree with that observation? Can we agree? Very well. The resolution is adopted. Resolution number 4, L4. Organization of an annual African regional review of progress in the implementation of the outcomes of the World Summit on Information Society. Would any delegations like to make a comment on this?
Pas d'observation?
No comments? In that case, it is adopted. We move to resolution number 5, African Institute for Economic Development and Planning. Are there any comments? Benin. Thank you, Chairman. I would suggest, and in point 2, rather than asks the Bureau I would suggest we have recommend instead of asks in point 2. Thank you. Very well. Congo has the floor. Thank you, Chairman. In point 1, given that we ended with the approved amendments, in that point, I would suggest that we recommend the Bureau to ensure the harmony in the text. I would suggest that the Governing Council ensure the harmony of the text, because that will be necessary to ensure that the statutes are fully respected there. Thank you.
OK. Une autre observation?
Very well. Any other comments? Do we agree with the comments that have just been made? Very well. We can consider Resolution 5 adopted.
Resolution 6.
Resolution 6. The draft program for the 2018 period up to 2019. This is L6, the strategic framework. Are there any comments? It seems not. So we will consider Resolution L6 as adopted. Okay, so we will move on to the following one, which is the joint strategy of the African Union Commission and the Association of African Central Banks on the establishment of the African Central Bank and other financial institutions. This is AUC L1. Are there any remarks on this resolution? Senegal has the floor. Thank you, Chair. The transition, I believe. Chair, when we consider this, we know that the ECA no longer organizes the Committee on Development meeting. I really just wanted to request the ECA to continue with the CODI because we find that it is useful for us. Thank you.
OK. L'Égypte.
Egypt has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the floor. I have some points just to clarify. First of all, as for the title of the item itself, I think it has to be amended because it reads as follows: AUC L1 Joint Strategy of the African Union Commission and the Association of African Central Banks on the establishment of the African Central Bank and other financial institutions. I'm afraid that here it could be understood that the joint strategy covers the 3 institutions, while the joint strategy covers only the African Central Bank. So I think a rewarding must be put here in order not to confuse the reader, because the strategy, as I said, it has to do with only the African Central Bank. Okay. Then on the part starting with taking note of the report of the Joint Technical Committee on the Joint Strategy for the Establishment of the African Central Bank, we submitted before our contribution to the Secretariat, but it is not pronounced here. We suggested that, and I'll give this written to the Secretariat again. We suggested that after African Central Bank we add, and the reservations made on the strategy by the Southern African sub-region. Then in recommendation number 1, takes note of, I will add of, takes note of. Then as for recommendation number 3 and 4, I think there should be a replacement or an exchange, because first of all we are talking about the African Central Bank, So recommendation number 1, 2, and 4, they have to do with the African Central Bank. Then at the end, we come up with recommendation number 3 to be number 4, because it has to do with the other Pan-African financial institutions. Again, Mr. Chairman, I'm repeating myself, and we already submitted this to the Secretariat in the experts meeting. The recommendations which already have been reached have to be consistent with the resolution, because in recommendation number 4, which has now will be 3, it says recommends the joint strategy for the establishment of African Central Bank for adoption by the Assembly of Heads of States, while in the recommendation we have for consideration by the ministers. So if we go like this, can we consider now that the ministers already consider the strategy and they agree to adopt it and to submit it to the heads of states for adoption? Thank you.
Okay. Le Mali.
Mali has the floor. Thank you, Chair. Following on from the Egyptian delegation, Mali has noticed that the title of this resolution has changed. In the French version, they're talking about a joint strategy. In the original version, it was commune in the French, and now it's conjointe. Now, as far as the other financial institutions, for us, this is somewhat vague. Other financial institutions, we feel it would be better to say the other financial institutions, and not just other. Now, even if the subtitle mentions financial institution, this resolution focuses particularly on the setting up of the African Central Bank. So I think we should stick to what's already in the strategy, and the resolutions therefore should be in harmony with the spirit and the letter of the joint strategy of the African Union Commission on the Association of African Central Banks and the establishment of the African Central Bank. So in each resolution, in each recommendation, we need to refer to that original strategy. So as we're talking about other financial institutions here, I think we've talked about, in the preamble, the specific African institutions that we would be referring to. Thank you.
Okay. Est-ce que le secrétaire...
Thank you. Has the Secretariat any remarks in relation to what Mali has just pointed out? It seems not. Okay, so we have taken note of Mali's remarks. Would anyone else wish to take the floor on this item, DRC? Yes, Chair, still on the same resolution, the second last paragraph, it's number 3 in the French. It is page 40. In English, it's page 36. Encourages member states of the African Union to sign and ratify the legal instruments of the African Investment Bank and the African Monetary Fund. Now, in the following paragraph, we would need to delete the section where we talk about the Association of African Central Banks and remain with the reservations expressed by the Southern African region and end there, so as to be in harmony with the objective here.
Okay. Est-ce que on est d'accord?
Thank you. Are we in agreement with these comments that have been made? Senegal. Chair, I would like to add another point. Maybe it would be 4 or 5. for the sub-regional integration of monetary institutions. There are some sub-regions that are somewhat advanced as far as setting up monetary unions. So whether we should say we need to accelerate this process in other regions.
OK. Une autre observation?
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Can we consider that this resolution is adopted, taking note, of course, of the amendments that have been proposed? Thank you. So the resolution is so adopted with the amendments.
L2, renforçant.
L2, strengthening economic research in Africa. Are there any remarks on this resolution, please? The Congo. Thank you, Chair. It's not really a question as such. I am actually trying to understand the issue of transfer of salaries, where we're talking about the remittances of migrants. It's not only their salaries, there may be other economic and social activities which would generate an income. So we cannot limit ourselves just to their salaries. Maybe we should just say any income, just income. Okay, I think you're going too fast. We are still on resolution 2. Okay, I'm sorry, Chair. I'm moving too fast. Okay, so should we consider resolution L2 as adopted in that case? So adopted. So we will move on to resolution L3, which is the draft statute of the African Institute for Remittances. Are there any remarks? We will start with the Congo, who was speaking to that item. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I hope you have understood my concern. I was saying that unless this is already the terminology used, we should not say just the salaries that would be remitted. There is other type of economic activities, trading, industrial production, etc., that could generate income. So perhaps we should talk about transfer of income, which is a wider phrase. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Mali, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. Following on from the Congolese delegation, Chair, we would like to propose that the title of this resolution be in harmony with that of the draft statutes. It's the Institut Africain de Transfert de Fonds in French, and it should be des travailleurs migrants. So the French should be in harmony with these statutes. Now, consultations are also required. We had proposed this earlier, so that countries send their point of view, or how to. There was a date set by which time countries were to respond, and we had suggested that we review this date to allow more time for consultations to take place. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Algeria, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. I would request that the deadline in number 1, 31 May 2016, be deleted so as to be in accordance with the report of the experts, where we had said as soon as possible instead of indicating that specific date of 31 May. Thank you. South Africa, you have the floor.
Algeria has taken the wind out of our sail. we support Algeria.
OK. Il y a une autre observation?
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this resolution? We will hear from Egypt first.
My distinguished colleague from Algeria and South Africa, they just pointed out what I want to say, because in the resolution, in recommendation number 1, in 2 months by 31 May 2016, this is not what was captured in the recommendation, because in the recommendation it was mentioned at the earliest convenient. So I think it should be consistent with the recommendation. Thank you.
Oui, je pense que les...
Thank you. This input has already been received. Thank you very much. Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Would like to thank the technical committee for their recommendation, which is open-ended. Now, the Committee of Ministers is saying that it is right and fitting that you should have a timeline. Even when you're looking at Agenda 2063, out of 50 years, the first phase is 10 years. So we are saying, for purposes of ensuring that we are able to get the response in good time, we should indicate the timeline. So I would appeal to my colleague ministers to agree to this position of 2 months and ending by 31st of May. Chair, I thank my colleagues for accepting my position.
Yeah, le Kenya?
Chair, I support what Uganda delegation has said, because in the first place, the institute is up and running, and the importance of remittances to the African need no emphasis. A lot of resources have already been committed to the institute, and what does earliest convenience means? So even the agendas that we are discussing have timelines. If the timeline is not adequate, then a deadline has to be decided, and it has to be decided in this meeting, but it should not be left open, as the recommendation on page 26 should be corrected accordingly.
Okay, Malawi.
So Chairman would also like to support the position taken by Uganda and Kenya, and in particular to request that the words "in 2 months" should be deleted, so that the sentence should conclude with by 30 May 2016, in order to be very, very clear about the deadline. Thank you.
Okay. Une autre observation?
Thank you. Any other remarks, Benin? Chair, thank you. I would like to support Uganda. If we leave it open, then the review will be difficult. Everyone will be wanting to set their own deadline. I think we need to be very precise and set a deadline for the review. Thank you.
Le Congo?
The Congo. Thank you, Chair. It's somewhat a delicate issue for some countries because we have a very heavy agenda. Perhaps it would be better that we extend the time, the deadline. I think it's more practical to proceed in that manner. We have other deadlines. We have the 16th, and we have other deadlines. Everyone has deadlines, but I think the political commitments take precedence, so we may not be able to meet this one. Thank you.
du délai.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that the deadline, should we agree that it will be 31 May 2016 or extend the deadline or leave it open? I would ask that the Secretariat speak to this matter. Thank you.
Maintenant,
So should we retain the 31st of May 2016 as indicated, or should we find another way to express this and everyone would be comfortable with it? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, it's not the Secretariat that should say when one would want to see is that there is a timeline. If you leave it open or just as soon as possible doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Some can take 10 years to them, that's as soon as possible. Some can take a month, that's as soon as possible. So we have to put a reasonable timeline to make sure that we move forward with Agenda 2063. So maybe if it is said that 2 months is too soon, then we have to have another timeline that will be comfortable for processes within various countries.
OK. Est-ce que, tenant compte des observations qui viennent d'être faites, est-ce qu'on peut adopter un délai, par exemple, de 4 mois pour que ça ne soit pas resté quand même indéfini? Hein? 4 mois, est-ce que ça peut intéresser tout le monde? Bien. Moyennant donc cet amendement, la résolution est adoptée. Résolution numéro 4. Adoption du Code d'investissement panafricain. Est-ce qu'il y a une observation là-dessus? Il y a une main qui est levée là-bas. Sénégal.
Oui, c'est juste ajouter, à côté des États membres, les communautés économiques régionales. Parce que je prends encore la CEDEAO. La CEDEAO travaille sur un projet de code communautaire qui va harmoniser les codes d'investissement de la sous-région. Donc c'est plus logique d'associer les communautés économiques régionales. Merci.
Une autre observation? Bien. Le Mali? Ah, c'est plutôt le Malawi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering whether the first one is indeed a resolution. Maybe it could, something could be framed that would be part of the lead information so that only 2 remains as a resolution. Thank you.
Mauritanie.
Oui, monsieur. Merci, monsieur le président. أريد فقط الاستثمارات الإفريقية لم تصلنا حتى الآن ولذا لا يمكننا أن نطلع عليها أي رأي. وشكرا.
Avec la traduction. Est-ce que...
Mauritania, would you kindly repeat your statement?
You were here? I just want to say that this draft we did not receive yet, and hence we were not able to give our opinion. We do not have the draft in front of us, and thank you.
OK. La Mauritanie.
Thank you, Mauritania. You didn't receive the document. Secretariat, could you please attend to this because it is a problem? Given the remarks that have been made, can we consider the resolution as adopted? We would invite the Secretariat to address the concern of Mauritania to ensure that they receive the document.
Were distributed. The draft was distributed here for experts to look at.
Bien.
Thank you. So we will consider that this resolution has been adopted in that case. Now we move on to resolution L5, the creation of the African Inclusive Markets Excellence Center. Any remarks on this? Senegal, you have the floor. Just the issue of recruiting an independent consultant, and the African Union has to conduct a study.
OK. Une autre observation?
Any other comments? Thank you. Well, with that correction, then, can we consider this resolution as adopted? L5. Okay, so it's adopted with the correction on the last paragraph. Okay, resolution L6, report of the 9th session of the meeting of the Committee of Directors General on Statistics. Any comments on this resolution? The DRC has the floor. Thank you, Chair. I would suggest, Chair, that we have a fourth point at the end that we add, and we would propose as follows: invite the member states who have not already done so to ratify the African Charter on Statistics and to implement the strategy for harmonization of statistics in Africa. This was agreed during the meeting of experts, Chair, and it would be in accordance with that. So I repeat, to invite member states who have not yet ratified the Charter on Statistics and to ratify the harmonization of statistics in Africa. So this is number 4, Chair. Thank you. Before I give the floor to Egypt and Tunisia, I would like to ask if we need to reflect on this proposed number 4. If not, we will move on to Egypt.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Just one remark about the last statement that was said. I think it would be good to take some time to consider it before placing it within the decision, or the resolution. Sorry. The other thing is that I would like to stress that our remark about the percentage and the word encourages needs to be updated in both the recommendations and the resolution. We have submitted this in writing earlier, and we're just confirming that we would like to see it confirmed. Thank you.
Bien. Il y a deux observations. La première, c'est qu'on nous propose d'ajouter un point 4. Le point 4 relatif aux pays qui n'ont pas encore adopté ou approuvé le code. Et c'est lui qui dit qu'avant de le mettre, qu'il faille qu'on l'examine. Et puis, le pourcentage de 0,015% devrait être revu. Est-ce que, je pose d'abord la question au secrétariat, il y a une observation ou un éclaircissement à donner?
This figure is the one that was adopted in the meeting of experts. Thank you.
OK. J'ai vu une main qu'on a levée là-bas. C'est le Sénégal et la Tunisie après.
Oui, je soutiens la position de l'Égypte. J'allais mentionner ça. Si on applique le pourcentage de 0,015%,
the statistics will be about $3,000. So our government has $8 million. So maybe 0.15% needs to be reviewed. Thank you.
OK. Avant que je ne passe la parole.
Before I give the floor to Tunisia, the figure as been presented, does it reflect what was suggested? Secretariat, please clarify this.
You should also read the resolution carefully. It says at least. So member states are free to contribute more.
OK. La Tunisie?
Tunisia, you have the floor. Thank you for giving me the floor. I recall that the Tunisia delegation have sent their comments to the Secretariat, and we withdraw a suggestion in relation to sub-paragraph 2. So, in the issue of African Refugee for Statistics and the Institute for Statistics. So we invite the Commission of African Union to work in close collaboration with the regional economic communities and other partners, and for the creation to replace rapid establishment before 2016, so that so we just want to replace the creation rapid establishment, because when this thing has already been created. So
Je ne sais pas si le secrétariat a une observation là-dessus.
Whether this secretary has another comment on this particular issue. Even on Malawi, you have the floor.
I think there is still need for us to attach some realism to it and to determine exactly why it is being set there. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to put it there. Therefore, I would support sentiments that seem to suggest that this figure needs to be reviewed in order for it to be realistic. Thank you, Chair.
OK. Mais tel que j'ai compris, c'est le...
As I understand, the figure was adopted and it should be quoted by experts. And if we retain it, what does that mean? So let us start with this figure, first of all, and then we can see what it brings out. Within the time, we will take it as it is, because this is what the experts have proposed for us. Namibia, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. In fact, Chair, when this matter was considered at the experts level, there was discussion, and indeed proposal was made to say that we should put emphasis to the fact that we need adequate funding for statistical development and for availability of statistical products and suitable funding. I think that was the language that was used. So the proposal that was put forth was actually to do away with the figure and stress, to do away with a designated percentage, and to stress adequacy or suitability, which is relative and it will depend on member states. When the proposal was made to do away with a designated percentage, there was no counter proposal. The language was more to emphasize adequacy of the funding towards the development of statistics. That's what we recall from the discussions, Chair, and we would think that that kind of language goes well with the proposal going forward to look at, to review the percentage going forward. Thank you, Chair.
OK, mais le secrétariat dit que c'est les...
The figure was adopted. So it's not just by chance or by accident that the figure is here. But if we don't put anything, we reach to have a lot of problems. And that will be really, will leave the door opened for a lot of complication. So let us put a reference figure, and that will be at least. So if any government wants to go further than that, then they have the right to do so. Senegal, you have the floor, please. Mr. Chair, in any case, there is no special case for Africa. The statistical development is 0.15. No African country will finance statistics with this figure. Why put in this figure? I would say, for example, if you do that, you're giving me some problems, because this is the decision of the heads of state. It's better to put nothing at all. You can say that you can strengthen this African participation, and the Minister of Budget will see what they can do in each country. I don't think we should put anything. Thank you. I am not completely in agreement with you. I will like to submit to the Assembly. We have to put a figure, really, because to leave it blank, that will give us a lot of problems. Of course, I understand your concern. Maybe the figure is high, but let us start somewhere. 0.15% is good. We're not going to discuss this figure anymore. I think we have to put something, and we will take your concern into consideration. For the meantime, we will maintain the figure that has been presented here. Thank you. Mali, you have the floor, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The delegation of Mali have supported to maintain an objective rate, because we understand that the meeting of the Director Generals of the National Statistics made recommendations to go in this line of 0.15%, as you have mentioned. It's not just a figure that falls from heaven. So we just have, it has been decided upon. So we cannot. It's just by accident. So we have to support this, because we might have extremely important needs for Agenda 2063, and this makes it to be viable. And member states and African Union and Africa will not have strong policy to do this if we don't do that. So we have to put a figure. So that does not mean that everybody is forced to say. We said encourage member states to allocate to at least 0.15% of their national budget. And I think that the budget, national budget of Mali, is about 2 billion in relation to this figure. It's okay. I thank you very much.
Okay. Le Gabon.
Gabon, you have the floor, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to ask that this figure was adopted. during the meeting in Libreville, and the old directors of the statistics adopted it. This is not a figure that falls from heaven. So it's it behoves on the country. He wants to go beyond that or not. So this was adopted by the whole of the meeting of the director generals. Thank you.
Alors, la Côte d'Ivoire.
Côte d'Ivoire, you have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going in the line of the last explanation, and then our understanding is that this is for development, not for statistics alone, but for development. We are talking about provisions of statistics in one country, and this is sufficient. And then when we talk about development, we know that in this line, this figure will be adequate. I think Gabon has helped us to say that it is a figure that has been adopted in the work of Gabon. So we are going to retain this figure. Namibia. Libya, you have the floor. You ask for the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank my colleagues, and I support all that they have said in the meeting of experts. We want to leave this area open for those who want to give more. They can. It will be a very good thing. At least let us have some. It is very important that we have this figure, because this is what happened, and we decided it's only the meeting of the experts. Thank you. After this, we consider that the position is adopted as it is. Thank you.
Adopted.
Adopted.
Résolution 7. Rapport de la...
Resolution 6. Report of the ninth session of the meeting of the report of the 7th meeting of the African Union Subcommittee Directors of General of Customs. In English, it is L7. We consider the resolution is adopted. It is L6 in French, but it's L7 in English language.
Resolution 8.
Resolution 8. Financial social protection in Africa. Any comment on that? South Africa, you have the floor.
Chair, we would propose that the resolution on social protection be consistent with the recommendations that were made under paragraph 26, G and H. I think there is a lot of discussion under the resolution, under the item. But what we need is just to make sure that that is consistent with what is on page 26.
Okay.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We propose that on that paragraph marked 4, for purposes of sharpening it, we also include the words after that, reading and increasing its coverage for the protection of the most vulnerable populations when faced with natural disasters. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
That's Sudan, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would just like to remind that our delegation had made its amendment earlier on this draft resolution. We made an addition to number 6, and we requested that to include the word to assist member states to benefit from the different initiatives on debt cancellation. And we have submitted it in Arabic and English before. Thank you so much.
OK. Moyennant ces observations, est-ce que nous pouvons considérer que la résolution 8 est adoptée? Adoptée. Résolution 9. Premier programme prioritaire quinquennal de mise en œuvre de la déclaration
Mention of the declaration and plan of action on employment, poverty, eradication and inclusive development in Africa. Any comments on this? No comments. The resolution is adopted. Resolution 10. Address and postcode system in Africa and the electrification and connectivity of post offices in rural areas in Africa. Any comments on this? No comments. Therefore, this resolution is adopted.
Bien.
I congratulate everybody. We have adopted the various resolutions, and then I adjourn the session so that we can go and have lunch, and we will meet in this hall later on. We'll come back in 1 hour's time. Thank you. Please give a round of applause to yourselves. Thank you. We come back at 15:15.
La déclaration, elle est faite.